Blog Talk Radio.
I'll take the night, 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 I'll take the night. 'Cause you have a heart that's divine, deserving you all, girl, you're mine. Eternity's ours, yeah, you're mine. We'll live the life, I'll take the night.
Okay, so welcome back to Take the Night, and I'm your host, Boyd, with co-host D. Shine and Angelica Martinez, and we were having some technical difficulties at 9, so D, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, at least you were able to get in. I hear you. I don't see Angelica, so I'm not sure. I don't know what's going on with her. But yeah, the topic for tonight's show is nutrition is life. So we'll see if we have that same problem we had last time, this time around. And we'll see what's happening. But yeah. So yeah, nutrition is life. And is why we should seek all things of a nutritious energy, nutritious frequency. I felt like that was pretty interesting and strange how I was acting up like that though. D, wasn't it weird?
Yeah, it was. It was.
That was a little weird.
But I thought about it too. The way the system is, the way anytime you design a program, it almost has to be exact. So if you logged in, if you started the program a minute off or a few seconds off, it's probably every half an hour on the hour. That's just my thinking, from technology, and it just didn't allow. Yeah, got out of sync, in other words.
And this stuff is always glitching out. It's unreliable. Technology is unreliable.
No doubt. No doubt.
For real. So that was like the first real big glitch out we've had since we've been doing this thing. And but yeah, I didn't let it affect me. But it goes back to, you weren't on the show with us last week, but I was talking. Oh wow! It's doing the same thing to Angelica, she says.
Oh really?
Yeah, that's a little weird. But I think I see Bonnie in here. I think that's Bonnie, that 412 number. I'm not sure if that's Bonnie or not. No, but I was talking about in our past show how right now I saw, in my life, things, symbolism, and that were foreshadowing roadblocks of some kind that would, could potentially cause stress. You know how a lot of times, like moments like this, some people would get really stressed out, really upset, and really let it mess up their night and really get all into it. Like, oh my gosh, I need to fix this. What's going on? But I'm just like, whatever. I was even thinking like, if it don't work, then it looks like we're just going to have to do this thing on Friday.
Hey.
Because
that's the path.
Because it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do in terms of creating some kind of thing to throw me out of the space I want to be in, which is definitely not stressing out about some kind of, it's not worth it. So I feel like that was a good learning experience, example experience, and to just see, hey, just deal with it and just keep it flowing. keep it moving.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. We have a choice.
I hope it lets Angelica. I hope it lets Angelica in. I don't want to do the show without her. Because how did Bonnie get in here? Let me see if that's Bonnie. 412-9703. Is that you, Bonnie?
Oh, hey, yeah, I messaged you. Hi.
How you
doing? I
doing?
didn't just shove a giant piece of egg in my mouth because I was about to.
Was it kicking you out too, Bonnie?
When I called at like 8:59, I wonder if I screwed things up, so I apologize in advance if that's what happened. I called in because I keep missing the Monday shows. So, like, I kicked everybody offline, like, and everything. I was like, I'm getting on this one because this one is, like, I really wanted to hear this one. So it, like, connected me and then put this background music and said the show hadn't started, and then my phone was almost dead. And so I plugged it in and hung up and figured that's when I messaged you and asked you if you guys were doing the show because I tried to call back, and then I tried to call back at one point, and it said the show hadn't started yet. Call back in 15 minutes or something. Is that a permission form?
No, it's
one
of my Microsoft certifications that I got today.
Is that certified? Sorry.
Yeah, they sent one in the mail, but I'm going to take other ones because I can do it for free at Beta. They normally cost money.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So that certifies me, and...
Well, we're glad you ain't here, Bonnie.
Thank you.
Yes,
right.
yes. Thank you, Bonnie.
I'll talk to you.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like Angelica's not able to get in here. You know what? I could do, though? I could call her on my line and merge.
Do that.
And she should be able to. Yeah, that'll work right there. Let me call her on.
Yes, I'm here. Mm-hmm. Did you merge?
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Did you get Angelica?
Victoria? Is that you, Victoria?
Hi, this is me.
How you doing? We've been having some technical difficulties. I'm trying to get Angelica on the line because she can't call in.
Okay.
So I'm calling her, and I'm trying to merge the call. We're talking about nutrition, and just basically that has a lot to do with diet and, just nutritious living overall. It could be nutritious information. So that's pretty much the narrative, and I thought it was very key to have you on, Victoria, if you could have come on, since you've been someone that's had great success changing, eating habits of your own and building, adding nutrition to your lifestyle and, regaining that health you're looking for,
Yeah.
So don't just because I'm trying to get her on the line, don't you guys can still talk if you can, but I'll be right back. I'm just trying to get her on the line.
No problem.
How you doing, Victoria?
I'm well. How are you feeling?
I'm just outstanding. I just came from Florida.
Oh, you did? You did text me?
Yes. I had to go down and spend some time with my 102-year-old mother.
Oh, how beautiful. Yeah. That's so awesome.
It is.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, she's eating right.
Oh, yes. That's how she raised us. Have a balanced meal. Of course, it wasn't vegetarian, but it was a balanced meal with fresh vegetables and salads. And
can you guys hear me?
When all food was good and we didn't have to read labels, right?
Yes, indeed.
Hello?
No canned foods. Yes, we're here. Can you hear?
Okay. Angelica, are you here?
I'm here.
Okay, great.
All right.
Finally. Okay, so we can get this thing going. It's been like brain surgery up in here trying to get this thing going. It's weird.
Hi, Angelica.
Angelica.
Hello, Angelica.
What's up?
Yeah.
Hey, Dee, what's going on?
Hey, everything's good. Everything's good. Yes, indeed. You did brain surgery without the stress, right?
Yeah, no, I'm not tripping. But I was like, I don't know why it's not letting, my girl Angelica in here. I was feeling some kind of way. A little bit. Like, what's up with that? Everybody can call in except Angelica. What's up with that? It's weird. So
I'm glad you reached out, sir. Right on.
Yeah. So when we were talking about what we were going to talk about tonight on the show, Dee suggested we talked about something of health nature, and then I threw it to Angelica, and she agreed about that. So, what's the angle in which you wanted to kick this thing off, Dee, in terms of like the perspective, so we can get this momentum building and just get the flow going from there?
Okay. Well, initially, let's start from the beginning, from the conception. As far as when a mother becomes impregnated, it's really, if she's not informed, she has to recognize that what she puts into her body that's detrimental to the growth, healthy growth of the child. It all depends on her. Unfortunately, especially nowadays, a lot of young ladies who hadn't been educated or who's not been around someone who knows how to eat properly, at least not just for themselves but for the baby. So if a mother is drinking when the child is in the womb, the baby's, some of the cells are not going to develop properly. And the mother smokes, some of the cells are not going to develop properly. If the mother is eating very little nutritious food, the baby is going to be limited from that standpoint. Not saying the baby won't come out healthy, but they're going to be limited until they catch up. That's why I just noticed. I didn't know anything about babies being born prematurely until I became an adult. Because when I was a teenager, I never heard that. It came about from the nutrition value of the foods began to decline. So it's I think everything really starts from the beginning. And from there, we just build, try to recognize the things that's beneficial for us, both food intake and what we think. And I'm sure we can build from there. So the baby is our foundation, children. They're a reflection of us.
It made me think of the male, and I'm sure a lot of what we eat affects our cells also, right? And then in terms of what we give to our part into creating offspring, right? Our cells can be messed up in translation in the sense to where we can mess up our sperm count and our sperm cells and stuff like that, which I'm sure has a big part in a lot of that premature birth. I'm sure it's like a combination of the male's bad eating habits and the lack of nutrient, and then what that woman is doing with herself too, and then that combination probably just creates a bad pot to cook in, I'm sure.
Yeah. A challenge.
Yeah. Angelica?
I think that nutrition is very important. I know that Boyd stated on a previous show, it's like you are what you eat. You have to be mindful about what you're intaking into your body and how that's being used by your body. You know, is it going to be used to its fullest potential because it's healthy or it's good for you, or is it not going to be used because, you know, your body really can't use it, you're just eating it because it tastes good, you know? So it is really important to be mindful of, you know, what you intake into your body. But also, you know, understand, you know, you can eat whatever you want to eat. You know, I know for myself, you know, I've seen a lot of people convert to different types of food lifestyles, and like to see like how judgmental they get about other people and their lifestyle choices. It's like, man, eat whatever you want. It's your choice. It's your mindset. It's like you have to just understand what you're intaking into your body. And there's no right or wrong. It's what you're comfortable with.
And when you say it like that too, you also have to know what you eat and how you feel. It's a matter of choice. So whatever you experience from the things you choose to ingest, you know, if it's a negative feeling that comes from that, you chose to do that, and that's also part of free will. Like you were saying, you know, eat whatever you want, but what, you know, if you feel some kind of way, that was your choice. You see what I mean?
That's right.
So I agree with you, but we also have to say, you know, hey, you know, when you're feeling exhausted and lethargic and pains and aches, and, you know, that's part of that. And I feel like just finding a balance is probably what we need to do, because I know myself personally growing up playing sports, they tell us, you know, potatoes and steak because they want to put weight on us, and they're giving us protein, and we're lifting weights, and then we swell up. And, you know, we think we're healthy, but we run and we exercise so much that I think we're just kind of getting away with eating these things, but it catches up later on down the line. As you can see, some athletes later on in older age, they don't look too good because it's catching up after that. Once you stop working out, and, you know, because we work out, we would run so much that it offsets all these things we eat. So I feel like, you know, again, it's about that balance. And Victoria, so
why don't you? One of my concerns is if a mother is pregnant and she's consuming perhaps fish that may contain mercury. That's one of the things that I think one of my main concerns is consuming fish that may have mercury. And sometimes you don't know where that fish came from or what part of the ocean or what's going on. So I'm not saying that it's not safe to eat fish. I'm just saying that there are some fish that contain mercury. And if having those high levels of mercury is one thing when it's your choice for your body, but when you're carrying a child, you don't know how those metals are going to affect that developing fetus.
Correct. Yeah, that's so important. And, you know, I was, before you and Angelica and Boyd, you got on, I was telling Victoria I was in Florida last week visiting my mother, who's 102 now. And, you know, and after I visited her, you know, I was there for about 4 days. When I went to Tallahassee and spent some time with my aunt, who's 96. She'd be turning 97. And if I go down the line, all of my relatives on my mother's side, they all passed in their 90s and above. And I tied that into what I found out from talking to my mother early on, is that her mother and her grandmother, they were sticklers on eating a balanced diet. You know, making sure they had fresh vegetables. They always had a garden in the backyard. And they ate meat, but it wasn't portioned. And major aspect of their diet, of their dinner or their lunch or whatever. And I equate that to just, sure, if nobody wants to live, well, some people like to live as long as they can. But I think the main thing is being able to live and have a happy and healthy lifestyle, where you're not dependent upon people, for a long period of time. And the only way, just from looking at them, to do that is to try to eat at least a balanced diet. And, of course, here and recently, a lot of people are starting to go more in depth, going vegetarian or going fruitarian, and people experimenting on the bodies, trying to eat properly. So the bottom line is, like you say, it's a choice. So, but I choose to try to eat as many vegetables as I can. And I still eat fish every now and then, but I choose the type of fish I eat. So it's all about choice, though, and living a healthy lifestyle. It's proof's in the pudding. You are what you eat, and what you think. Also, that's the other aspect I want to add on too. Is I've been running across the reoccurring theme stating that at least 70%, up to 75% of illnesses that we develop is from stress, whether it be fear, anger, hatred, anything that brings stress on the body. So the cooler you are, the better you will, better healthy you're gonna be. Boy just explained that, dealing with the technology issue. He didn't bug out. He stayed cool. Everything worked out. But on the other hand, another person could, just be running around like a chicken with their head cut off. Oh, what am I do? What am I do? What people gonna think about me? I always mess up things. Stressing themselves. And that's really decreasing their health. So that's that's my take.
It's about being light too. The way I look at it is we're energy, right? And we're having this human experience in this body, and we're becoming more dense. The more we eat, we begin to gain mass, right? And that mass holds vibration. Like vibration energy isn't going to flow through it. The thicker the more dense you become. Speaking on stress that Dee was talking about. So, because I always explain something from like the self-interest perspective, because a lot of people, when you attack their food or attack food in general, some people are going to feel some kind of way about that. But it's like if you can show them the self-interest in it all, like how can you benefit? Then you see, so they kind of put their guards down a little bit. And just from the self-interest perspective, the lighter you are, the easier things roll off your back. You don't hold all these vibrations that you interact with all day that create stress, whether it be, all the noise outside from the cars and just some of these bad vibrations, whether in, the Wi-Fi and all this kind of stuff that we interact with all day. The less mass we are, the less dense we are, the easier we move through these things, and they don't stay in us. They kind of flow through us because we're able to vibrate. We're vibrating at a rate in which still, we appear to be solids, but we still are not necessarily solid as we appear to be. The way we can stay not super, super, super dense is by keeping ourselves light from what we eat. And we realize that when we speak about stuff like the itis, like, if you eat a lot of greasy foods, instantly the blood starts to think it up, and then you lose energy. So again, it's like if you want energy, never mind socially trying to fit into some kind of vegan group where, it's part of the culture now, or vegetarian group where it's like it's table talk now. It's like you're up on something new, but just for yourself. If you want to have the energy to create and produce things for yourself, opportunities, it's in your best interest to keep yourself full of energy. And that goes back to eating things that give you energy. I always like to look at the body like a car. And if you have, different cars take different kinds of gas for a reason, right? But the way I look at our blood is like the oil that keeps everything running in the car. You let that oil thicken up in your car, you don't get that oil change, things begin to tighten up. And the engine isn't going to run well anymore. You're going to feel how struggling going up steep hills and all of that. And the blood in the body, one of the ways I look at it is like that. Like the thicker your blood is, a lot of these blood diseases are coming from the things that we eat. And that's key too, that we cleanse our blood by eating things that our body actually can, like Angelica was saying, use. Yeah, I used to be an ice cream addict, and I love ice cream so much, but I don't eat it because I know it doesn't do me any justice. Like, it just tastes good. But the majority of what it does when it's in my body, that chemical reaction, is causing sickness in my body. So, I sacrifice, my point is, from my own life, is I sacrificed a lot of things that taste good just so I can feel good. That's my invested interest in why I eat certain things or don't eat certain things from my perspective, just to share, I think you were about to say something, Victoria.
I forgot, but in general,
I'm sorry.
I agree with you. I agree with you as far as you eat what makes you feel good. And a lot of times if you fall into someone's label of vegan or vegetarian or herbivore, or, the fructose, people that only eat fruit, or people that only meditate and drink water, there's lots of different ways that we can experiment and find out which ways we feel better and which ones make us function best. Like you, I gave up, certain meats about 20-something years ago. I was vegetarian for many years, and just to get over my illnesses, I had to remove certain foods, and then I started seeing them, fall into certain categories, and I was like, okay, so meat's not good for me. Milk doesn't do my body good. It might do somebody else's body good, but it doesn't do my body good. Eggs, there's just certain things that I started eliminating so many things. And although at the time I was vegetarian, I wasn't completely plant-based. I started reading up on plant-based, vegetarian, and octo this, and all these different names, and even vegan, realizing that, wait, I'm already doing some of these things because that's what works for my body, not because I'm trying to fit under a certain title. I just know what works for me. And then once you learn more about a particular diet and you learn the benefits of them, then you can start taking on what fits you or what suits you, a ketogenic diet, an alkaline diet. So there are different names out there, and it's not that anyone should use those titles to sound like they're better or smarter than anyone else. It's just how we view them and how they fit our lives. I know that I have strong views of what I believe is right and wrong for me, and I've had people inbox me to ask me questions. I've had people that, thank me because now they've started this path and they feel so much healthier. But I've also had, one or two of the opposite that say, well, you should be consuming milk. You need to have animal products in order to survive. And, like, they believe what they want to believe because I haven't been on animal products for years. So if that's the case, I'd be dead by now. So like you said, what works for one person, may not work for someone else. And what I do is because it works for me, and I know there are scientifically proven health benefits behind certain diets, but people get so turned off by the name. And I think secretly, I don't know, I could be wrong, but secretly I think a lot of them get defensive because they feel that you're attacking the way that they've lived their whole life. And they get defensive like you're saying they're doing something wrong, but they're not open to learning more about the benefits of various diets before they can choose which one is best for them. We have grandparents that are in their 90s, but those people in their 90s and their 100s, they had 90% of their life eating clean, healthy food, great frequencies. Things weren't run the way they're run now. Farms were different, different back then. And so you can't compare what you ate your first 40-something years of life to what you've been eating the last 5 years because it's not the same food.
Exactly. A lot of those antibiotics are in a lot of the meats now too, because they're shooting up all the animals with antibiotics.
And they weren't in there. They weren't in there 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, so it may not even necessarily only be the fact that, meat. It could be just it's a lot of it has a lot to do with the antibiotics in it, and then it's like now these antibiotics don't just disappear once you ingest the food. You now are getting shot up with this super dose of antibiotics because you ingested something that had antibiotics. So, and that's affecting people in a lot of different ways also, I'm sure. So, yeah.
Something else, too. Now, I mentioned my mother's side of the family. On my father's side, I had 2 aunts that passed relatively early. And one aunt I was very close with. But whenever I went over to her house, she offered me something to eat. She would have rice, meat, gravy, and bread. Very, very seldomly she might have a canned vegetable. But she died of diabetes. So she was basically eating more starch than anything else. This is my aunt. I loved it. But I noticed the difference between how my mother fed my siblings and my father compared to my aunt. Of course, it's all a choice. But I think really, just like what some people say that, what the doctors ask you, do you have anybody in your family who had breast cancer or high blood pressure or things of that nature? But what I found is that heredity as far as illnesses is not necessarily a factor in how you feel. Right. It's really based on the eating habits. And that's another aspect too. Yeah. And the stress level. Because, sometimes some people say, well, I have this, and because my mom had this, but all the time, if you look back at the mother's eating habits, they're the same eating habits that you have.
That's right.
So
it's more dangerous that person inherited the bad habits than it was the genes. They think that, these are my genes, that's my DNA, I have no control over it, so I might as well just be happy. But they don't realize that you don't inherit those type of things. You might have a tendency, but what really hurts you is when you inherit those behaviors, the bad habits.
Right.
That's what makes you decide if you're going to have the diabetes and the breast cancer and all that stuff. It's your habits, it's the frequencies that you allow your body to absorb mentally, physically, and emotionally.
Yes.
I feel like that was a great point that you just made. That that in this certain world they're looking at it as a hereditary thing, but it's like, is it, or is it that the only thing that's really being passed down is that you've been eating the same food as that person that had that sickness prior to you? I feel like that was a very good point, Victoria, because, that's what it is. And again, it goes back to the blood. It's the blood. When that blood gets thick and those red blood cells start losing their aura, I don't know if, I'm sure some of you guys have seen like red blood cells under a microscope and how each one has its own aura. And they've noted that when those blood cells have lost their auras, the person feels lethargic and there's a problem going on in the blood, and the blood is dirty. But when those
because
blood
you're literally
cells
losing your life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's what I'm alluding to. I'm getting to that. Like when those blood cells are all lit up, then, you might be a person that's thinking of, everything is everything, right? So this ties into you wanting to manifest for yourself and be, and if you're not a spiritualist person and it's a cause and effect kind of life you're doing, you're just moving and shaking, how can you do either of these things from either perspective if you don't have the energy to do it? But back to the blood, those auras are going. That means your aura, your total aura is going to be lit up more because the blood in your body, each blood cell's aura is lit up, and that aura, the blood, all those put together creates this bigger aura, which is you. And then that ties into how magnetizing you are, how much energy you have. So, a lot of times people transition into wanting to manifest things for themselves, and what I'm getting to is they realize, like, it doesn't work in a couple of days, and it's like, is it because it doesn't work, or is it because you have no power behind you because you've depleted your energy body and your magnetism? And
I think it takes a combination of things.
Exactly,
Okay.
It's a combination of all of that. Because when your energy body's down and your blood is thick and you're dense, now your thinking habits. They tell you all the time that your thinking habits are slower, because one of the things a lot of people say when they change their diet is, oh, my gosh, my mind is so clear, my thoughts, right? So the things we eat, the things we're eating is slowing down how efficient our brain works, right? It's an organ, and it's an organ connected to every other organ by way of the spine. So if you're filling up those lower organs, it's affecting that greatermost, that higher organ, which is the brain. So it's all a total thing, and it's not about.
And can I offer?
What were you about to say?
I was going to say, can I offer something before I forget? Chlorophyll for the blood. If you could take wheatgrass shots daily, that helps keep the blood clean. It's a blood purifier. So if there's one thing that someone would like to take away from the show that they can do physically, not just, I know you got to work on the mental, emotional, but physically, trying to incorporate wheatgrass would help a lot in cleansing the blood. So wheatgrass shots.
Yeah. And also drinking up in that water count too, like trying to get to a gallon a day.
Would be nice. The water would be nice. I thought that was a given, but
some people, if you ever go to the grocery store and you watch, they'll have like 5 to 10, 24 packs of Coca-Cola looking at me and Sarah like we're crazy because the cart is full of nothing but water jugs. Like literally looking at our cart like, what's up with them? No soda?
They say your car needs some water. But one thing I noticed as I went through my transition is that a lot of people, unfortunately, they equated changing your diet, changing your eating habits to being on a diet. And that I think that's a big misconnect, because most people when they say diet, that's temporary. But all the time
they also think that means going without something.
Yeah, that's true too. Yes, indeed. But that's one thing Go ahead.
That gives it a negative feeling. So then nobody wants to try because they don't want to give up what makes them comfortable. So they don't want to diet.
Yes.
The wrong perspective on the whole thing.
Right.
Yeah, it should be looked at as a whole lifestyle change, is what you're alluding to, right, D?
Right, exactly. Because that's what it is. And so it's just, and for instance, when I go to, my wife's from Louisiana, and southern Louisiana, and it's known for a place that has very tasty food. But unfortunately, there's not much fresh vegetables involved. The food tastes great. We're talking about jambalaya, gumbo, etouffee. I'm sure some names you might not have heard of, but they are very tasty, but there's not very many green vegetables. So since I've been sharing with some of the family members, and I noticed that they're eating more salads at least. But from my observation, looking at when I first went to my wife's hometown, This was when we were in their 20s. And most of our friends were still like they were in high school. But 10 years later, they had blown up like somebody had put an air pump to them. Ooh. And I equated that to, not eating a balanced diet. But this is how their mothers, how their grandmothers was eating. But, and I tried to explain, I have explained to some, members who listen to me, because, some people listen to me but don't. But what I kind of equated to during the years prior to integration, this was a time where the majority of people in the South worked in an agriculture-based economy. So they were working hard from sun up to sundown. And they were eating that, but they were burning it off because they were working in the sun, working hard.
They have their balance.
But now, most of the jobs people have, service-related jobs, or they're in the school system, working for the state or whatever, or have their own business, but they're sedentary jobs. So they're not burning that off. And after they get to a certain age, they stop exercising. So it's like, and it starts snowballing from there.
That's what I was alluding to with using my, that whole athlete perspective. When we're out there in that sun running every single day until, sometimes they run us till we're throwing up. Literally, you can get away with eating some of these foods all the time because you're really burning it off at a rate which is not normal for the average individual. But as soon as I'm gonna just take it to me. As soon as I stop playing sports and I continue to eat some of the things like the pizza and shit, I started noticing problems. Like I then began to experience things like acid reflux. Never had experienced that prior to it. And, I'm like, what's up with this? I've been eating some of these things forever. And what I had to do is I realized I had to cut out these things because I wasn't doing as much of the high activity workouts as I was prior. So, you're
not sweating it out and you're not water.
Yeah, exactly. You're right on with that, D. Like a lot of that field work, you could get away with eating a lot of what is considered, the soul foods, because of the field work that was associated in those time periods, and even just walking here and there. Transportation is different. The car is causing us to eat and rarely ever really. Some people could say they never really work out or exercise because they just rather be in a car. So it's like if you continue,
and can I add
it's basic math. Go ahead.
Another thing is, too, when you were talking about how foods were tasty, they used a lot of herbs and spices. So even if their diet might not have been a perfect balance on the plate, with so many herbs and spices, that's like medicine. So that was a much more than what people are doing now. People don't put fresh herbs and spices in their food now. It's like salt and pepper and that's it. So that made a huge difference as well because each of those herbs is like a medicine for the body.
And, that sodium, too, it causes, I've noticed, it causes a lot of water retention because the body is like a mechanism that understands when there's too much sodium in the place, and it'll send water there to try to break up that salt pack, that sodium pouch. And that's why a lot of people are holding a lot of water with these high sodium diets they have. And when I say diet, I mean like high sodium habits they have, not like a diet, but like, the lifestyle of high sodium causes a lot of people to hold a lot of water weight. So, that's a problem too, because then you start to feel heavy and it's like, what's going on here? I never really was like this. My body mass wasn't like this. But all of a sudden, as you get older and that metabolism slows down, because they tell us these things, right? You can't continue to eat these things, and it's really just like a basic, perception kind of thing that we have to do. We have to really do basic like math when it comes to like I'm not doing as much as this as I used to do, but I'm still eating like I used to. That can't continue. I have to reevaluate and reset up the margins of what I do based off of how much I'm moving, and then we'll feel better.
Yeah, and also dealing with the salt intake of the sodium. Most people, unfortunately, don't realize that they'll have salt, just use sea salt. Because the salt
exactly.
that we grew up, most families grew up using is not actually, it's not really salt. Like you said,
sodium chloride, right?
But,
right? Sodium chloride?
Yeah, yes. But actually sea salt it can be healthy because our blood is just actually salty. I'm sure if anyone had a cut or anything and they taste their blood, they can taste the salt in it. But that's only through not knowing, But that's one of the things I try to share with as much as possible with those who will listen. I'm not one who gets on a box and try to information, but if I see someone that's interested, I try to share with them. But that's one of the things I definitely try to share.
And another thing that the body needs salt too. Salt is a natural forming thing, sea salt. So if we are a composition of all the elements. So it only makes sense that sea salt would be something that we should have in our diet because sea salt is a natural forming substance on the earth. You see, like that ice cream, though, and I love me some damn ice cream, y'all. I'm being real. Like it's a struggle for me every day because I love ice cream, but I can't. I don't want to eat it. Huh?
What was your favorite, boy? What was your favorite?
Oh, butter pecan too. I'm just buttering myself up, right? The worst type. And, I got away with it all through sports, D. Like in high school, I was killing like a tub of Bluebell butter pecan ice cream, maybe 2 a week, maybe more. But I could get away with it because we were running so much. You see what I mean? But that catches up to you
I know.
In terms of, it's let's just think about people who have heart problems, right? If the blood has these oils and these butters that begin to turn into sludge, it starts to clog up those ventricles. It's very like simple, it's very simple anatomy. Like, and then it gets all cruddy in your heart, and now you have heart problems and heart palpitations, and you have your heart, you have struggle with breathing, and you have high blood pressure. It's all based off of our own habits. And like you're saying, it's not a matter. I don't care what the next person is eating, but since we decided to talk about, health tonight, it's only, we're creating a platform to speak on these things, our perspectives on these things, and it's just highlighting some things that could have just been overlooked by individuals that may be listening. Like, hey, if you have high blood pressure, it's a direct result of what we're eating, a direct result.
No doubt.
And if you change it and you put more things that the body can use in, you will see, good results from that. And Angelica, you're real quiet. I want to make sure you get in on here, lady.
Oh no, I'm just listening. This is all great information. Believe me, I'm not like a nutrition buff or anything like that because. I just naturally stopped eating things, on my own, just because it just started to taste funny to me. Just like you, there's like your body doesn't like it anymore. It's not something that you need. So, I'm just enjoying listening to all you guys. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I'm not a nutrition person either. I don't keep track of calories and none of that crap, but. And I'm not saying people who do that, there's anything wrong or right about that. That's cool. But because you start to become like, you have to be like a chemist some of the times to like deal with some of that stuff, it seems. And I'm not by any means going to be looking at the calories and trying to make sure I'm burning the calories. But what I will do is I'm conscious of my own energy and, like, how energetic I feel, how light I feel, how my mind's functioning, if it's functioning slow, or if I'm feeling any kind of, like bulges in my stomach. Like, obviously it's a result of something I ate. And if I'm feeling slower, it's a result of something I ate. And I need to, and then I make the adjustments from there. And I like to put things in my body that my body can use, like the gas in a car. Like you put, when you start getting into cars like Mercedes-Benz, they need the high-grade gas because the mechanism needs that. That's how the human body is. I look at, like, vegetables, like the high-grade gas, fruits and vegetables, like the high-grade gas that a Mercedes needs. And, and I'm not saying all the other cars aren't good or anything for somebody that might try to get that from that. But what I'm just saying is if you put different gas in those kind of cars, it does have an effect on them. And it may not be right away, but it's a long-term effect on them. No, and that's how the body, like we can get away with eating all the candy and stuff when we're young, but after a while, because when you're a kid, look, you can stay up late, up in the morning, running around. You got a lot of energy. You're a spark still. You're still this primal spark. And then as you get, up there, it has a lot to do with things that's going on in our minds too. And, some of the traumas and the stresses, we begin to slow down. And as we begin to slow down, we start to burn less calories, become less active. But yet we're still eating these things that we kind of went to because a lot of times I realize it could be, for me in the past, comfort, like eating certain things. It was comfort foods. If you're feeling some kind of way, you may resort to, or I would have resorted to eating certain things. I know if I got sick, I would stay home and I would make sure I had some ice cream. And it may seem very like wow, you want ice cream when you're sick? But I would. When I was younger, I would eat ice cream when I didn't feel well, and eventually I would get out of that. But, as you have more time on this earth, you can't get away with things like that anymore, it seems. Because I'm definitely one that believes that I can control my own reality with the things that I agree to. But again, some things are fixed and some things are mutable. Some things are beyond our minds to a certain extent. And it seems like the body it needs certain things to run efficiently. And these diseases and stuff are a direct result of all of that.
No doubt. But there has to be a balance.
Yeah.
It has to be a balance. Like you said, if your mind is at a certain state and you're eating a very food substances that's going to compromise your health, you're going to feel worse. So it's but if you balance it out, and it's consider drinking more water and eating more vegetable or fruit-based foods, you're definitely going to feel better.
And you can just go take it back to how it takes energy to produce energy on any level. Like if you're running a factory and that factory is producing some kind of product, yeah, there may be like some kind of gas or fuel running that factory, which is an energy source, right? But who's on the construction, on the assembly line? Humans. So it's taking the human's energy to produce the product in the factory, along with it's taking, some kind of fossil fuel, which is the energy, to keep that assembly line running from a mechanical perspective. If you just take that whole template into consideration when it comes to our bodies, it takes energy to create energy. When we eat, when we char up our foods, if you like, you guys can look up food under these, look up, you can see these people, they take pictures of foods when they're cooked and when they're like cooked vegetables, and then they take a picture of fresh vegetables, and they have this camera that sees a different spectrum of light. So it shows basically the auras of the fruits in those different states. Now, when they take the picture of like the fresh vegetables and fruits, it has this huge aura because it's alive, right? The cells inside of the fruit and vegetables are still alive. And then they take pictures of the same fruits after they've been cooked, and it has like this gray, dark cloud over it. Like it's just like in the cartoons when they would like show smelly socks, and it has like that gray trail like moving off over it. It looks just like that, and it's like that's what you're eating. There's no energy in it, so it's not about trying to meet some kind of social standard. It's about basic, just remembering all the things they've told us over time about how things function, and then applying it to the body, because it really does seem like the human can start to compartmentalize the information that it's consumed over time, not putting it all together in a place to apply to themselves on how they can use it. So if it takes energy to produce energy, like that company you work for is a corpse, an empty entity that needs your energy on the assembly line, at the call center desk, at the register, in the aisles, for it to run. And if you weren't there, it would just be this empty thing, this non-moving thing, this stagnant Frankenstein thing that has no life. But your energy makes it run, makes the corporation run, makes that company run, makes whatever it is run. The food we eat does that same thing for us. The body transmutes the things into some kind of usable fuel, just like the car. Everything is based off of the body, it seems, in terms of how the car runs. It needs fuel. It needs oil to keep everything running real smooth. Water in the body keeps everything running real smooth. The fuel is the food in the regarding the body. So, and again, self-interest is, I want success. I want to have the energy to pursue the things that I want to pursue. But I'm so tired all the time. Like those damn commercials. If you have restless leg syndrome, it's like if you're tired and you don't have the energy to go after the things that you want to go after in life, if your mind's moving slow, try eating foods that actually are alive. And it's just that simple. It'll help. And then over time, of course it's going to take some time, but over time, the body begins to, the immune system begins to work, get back in shape and work for you, and gives you more. You get that energy back. You get that go back. So
that's right.
Yeah,
that's right. Yes, indeed. Yeah. And one thing I want to touch on also is dealing with really the root. What I found is one of the major causes of any of our ailments, that we don't recognize the importance of our digestive system, because that we look at life in general. Well, in particular, just from a human perspective, anything we look at that's in the middle of anything, we always recognize that as being the heart. And if you look at from our foot to the top of our head, our digestive system is at the heart. Is the heart. It's like the most important aspect of getting energy efficiently. And when it becomes clogged, that's when things really start breaking down. So in order for us to continue to at least move forward, we have to keep our digestive system moving. And let's talk to some of my relatives periodically, ask them off the cuff, say, look, how often do you go and use the restroom? Do number 2. Most say every other day, every 2 days. A lot of my female relatives, that's what they would say, every 2 days, every other day. Say, do you know that's not cool? said, well, that's how it's always been for me. Some, of course, some relatives, ladies, my family said, well, I go every day. So that's the way it should be from my research. But some people don't think it's not normal to go to the restroom every other day or every 2 days. But that's really, that calls, I know for a fact for myself.
Figured it was
when I'm
something
constipated,
this is going on,
Yeah, D, I had got kicked out for a moment, D, because there's some storm brewing over here, and it kicked me out. So we're back now.
Really? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I was kicked out for a little moment.
Oh, wow. Yeah, but I was speaking about the digestive system and how important
once
that
shit
is.
Goes,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, once that shit goes out, it's a problem.
Yeah.
Because then you because the body then isn't processing the food, and then it rots in the gut.
And I was just sharing. Some people I've run across, particular relatives. That's where I kind of pick their brains and ask them how often they, when we get on food and eating, because normally when they see me, oh, wow, you still look in good shape, because I was an athlete just like as Boyd was, and most of my friends who I played sports with, they're 300-pounders, and little guys, 200-pounders, But I've lost weight since I stopped playing ball because I changed how I eat. But only leading to just the digestive system and how it's really at the heart of our body, and how if that's not running efficiently, if you're not eliminating every day, you should have concern. Because that's not.
Yeah.
If you eat every day, you should have a bowel movement every day. Just
exactly.
the same thing with urination. Most people, they have to urinate. And that's the same way it should be for the digestive system. And I think that's one of the major things.
You just took me to when you say urinate, how people have a lot of problems with stones. Realizing, when we eat, know thyself, right? Realize that the things we eat, when they cause these like blockages, you can feel instantly, like after you eat something, how it's just like something. It may taste good going down, but you can feel how it's affecting the body. At least I can, right? Like I'm like, ooh, that's making me feel tight in my body. It's not. I don't feel as loose anymore. My efficiency's gonna drop. But some of the things we eat, determining maybe it's your blood type or whatever that may be. That's why, it's key to figure out your blood type too, because there's a lot of people that have written books on about how certain things for certain blood types are a necessity and certain things for certain blood types are not. And just by, filling in the blanks with my, my mind, I could see how certain blood types are probably going to have certain things that turn into stone in their body, which causes, kidney stones, bladder stones, which is a problem with a lot of males too. Like, I don't know about you, but like if I go in a public bathroom, right, and I'll be, I'm sorry if I hope I'm not gonna gross y'all out, y'all, but we're just talking here, and I'll be, using the bathroom, urinating or something like that, and it's like Niagara Falls. I have no problem there. But I'll hear, like, cats that come in, and it's like, whoa, I realized there was a real problem. Like, people have a problem urinating, and it's a problem. And it seems like it's real big amongst males because, damn, like it's a problem. It's like you be hearing motherfuckers grunting and stuff, and I'm like, yo, like, that can't be normal when you're trying to urinate. Like, it shouldn't, because when I've never experienced anything like that. And my point is that has a lot to do with what we eat. I can't remember the name of the doctor, but I remember there's some doctor that said that dairy, D, is the direct result for erectile dysfunction in males. Dairy.
I can see that.
Yeah, dairy.
I can see that.
And I was like, oh, I'm definitely kicking the dairy because I'll be damned, you know. So, you know, just it goes back to realizing, you know, self-interest, right? Self-interest. People don't, you know, when it comes to monetary gain, you'll change quick. Some people are dance, you know, like skip, you know, Bojangling for some money. But when it comes to, you know, you need to take that angst into consideration when it comes to living and feeling good while you're living is my point, because we tend to be a lot slower when it comes to our vices. You see, like we want to live so we can keep going into our vices. It seems the human race right now. Like we want more money so we can get more of our vices, which are ultimately the things that end up killing us, right? But yet it's like you want money. What's the point of having that money if you're not going to be able to live to enjoy it? So it's like, you know, these vices are slowing down not only, you know, the quality of life, but if you want money, if that's what you live for, it's slowing down your ability to get that because you feel tired. You know, you feel tired.
That's right.
So it's the food.
Yeah, even take it further than that, boy. Now, okay, you make money. Well, you strive to make money, some people, but what are they making it for? To buy things, and also for a male, if he's a heterosexual, to attract females if he's not married. So, but if you're not taking care of your vehicle, you're not going to be able to perform.
Yeah, right.
And, you know what I mean? So it's like, well, what you going to do? You know, it's going to be like, you know, driving up in a Mercedes, and yeah. So it's hopefully some men think about what we just mentioned.
D, you just made me think about, okay, have you ever heard of the show called Rick and Morty? If you haven't, you should definitely watch Rick and Morty. It's basically like a spin. It's like they're kind of loosely. It's going to be loosely kind of like a Back to the Future kind of thing. It's a scientist whose grandson travels with him in multi-dimensions and all this shit. Well, in one episode, the devil comes into town, and he basically has this shop where the shop has all these magical, like appliances, whether it be like a phone or a glove or some shoes or some boxing gloves or something that all do something that benefits your life in a magical way, right? So this dude comes in and he gets this potion because he wanted to have women attracted to him. So he gets the potion, he goes off, he comes back later on with like 3 women like, yo, like I got the women, but you know, something ain't working now. Well, you know, just basically what you just said. And that's what he was doing in that episode. He was giving people things that were giving them what they wanted, but taking away a key function to be able to enjoy that thing that they wanted. And you just reminded me of that when you said, you know, hey, you know, men surely do, you know, and, you know, no matter what their orientation is, right, are living to attract whatever they're attracted to. What's the point of doing even that? And we're just bringing this up for, you know, because people value different things, right? Some may just value simply that. So what's the point of even doing that if you can't even, like, enjoy that process? But that's very interesting. You should definitely watch Rick and Morty. It's a cartoon, but you'll like it.
Yeah. I'm going to check it out. Rick and Morty.
Yeah, you'll like it. Like, they travel to different galaxies and different planets, and they travel in different dimensions, and it's very interesting. It has adult humor in it, and it's funny. Yeah.
I'm going to check it out.
Yeah.
Yes, man.
So it's about 47 minutes left in the show. if you're somebody that at some point would like to interact with us and add your take or have a question or whatever, you can call in at 215-383-5822. Again, that's 215-383-5822. And when you get on the line, you press 1 and a question mark will pop up, and then I'll open the lines. But, yeah, and we do have another online question. I feel like this is probably a good time to transition into that, y'all. Okay?
Oh, yeah. Sounds good.
Oregon Ducks Rule again, man. Like, they shout out to Oregon Ducks Rule. We definitely appreciate your interaction with us here on Take the Night, and yeah, thank you. This is regarding our last show. The question came, and it was like, after I listened to this, I would love to become more educated on astrology. What books or YouTube videos would you recommend reading or watching for better understanding on astrology? And then he says, can one use astrology to predict when things are more likely to go their way based on their own personal astrology? So let's start there. It's kind of long. I feel like Angelica and Dee are probably real perfect to jump into the astrology. I kind of just feel the energy and take it there. They'll be able to give you the source information, I believe. So, yeah, well, why don't you guys?
Yeah, ladies first.
Okay, sure. Well, the only astrology book that I've actually had for a very long time is called The Only Astrology Book You'll Ever Need. It's, like, huge. And I've always used that for, like, reference. It shows you how to basically do your own natal chart, tells you about the different houses and things like that. So it's very informative, and it's a really big book. And like I said, I've had it for years. That's been my reference. In regards to his second question, or their second question about using astrology to predict certain things or if things will work out, I will say you can't predict really anything. I mean, you can say something has a high probability, or, you put a lot of energy towards something and a lot of work towards something, so it's, kind of like almost expected that it would happen. But nothing is ever, 100%. So, you could do as much as you can and gather the resources and the information about, the energy of what's going on and use it to your benefit. That's what I will say. It's like, predicting the future is like, I don't think certain people have gotten there, although there are people that do have certain gifts and abilities. I am not one of them. not really. So, I just really use astrology to, like I said, to kind of get a feel and understanding of the energy that is going on and how I can best use that, for my focus and my overall goals that I want. So, yeah, those are my answers for his question. And thanks for spitting.
Yeah. Okay, my first astrology book was Chiros, Chiros, I think it was. But, of course, when I first got the book, I wasn't ready for it. But what I did do, I began to search for beginners.
Wait. Say that out again. Say that again. Say the title. Say the title again.
Chiros Astrology, Chiros.
Chiros.
And
okay.
Like I mentioned, that was the first book I got, because I was interested, and I wasn't ready. I got into maybe about half of it, and I'm sure anybody who's a reader, they got in the books where they got a portion of it, but it wasn't time for you to absorb the information and be able to break it down. But what I did do, I continued to look for any aspects of astrology, and I ran across some beginners books, just basically learning about the houses and learning about the various, the different planets and how, what element those planets are in. And after a while, began to get a working understanding of how the planets interact with each other. But I think, just as Angelica mentioned, astrology has to be right and exact as far as predicting the day, the time, and things of that nature. I haven't seen that ability. Now, I'm sure there's some people who have, like Angelica mentioned as well, some people have natural abilities to discern the possibilities in your life, and they utilize astrology to guide them in that direction. But the bottom line is this, when you tune into who you are and strive to get an understanding of how the universe works and how it's affecting people here on the planet, and you in particular, that I think that's the best barometer to allow you to, you say, want to predict, but I would say more or less have a idea of what's possible within your realm, whether it be relationships or jobs or travel, things of that nature. If you happen to know the energies are good for that particular endeavor that you're going into. But that can't say, well, I'm going to meet this person, I'm going to meet the woman of my dreams tomorrow. No, I can't see that. And say it's a possibility. The energy is good for me to meet somebody who's going to click. And it might be a male, might be a female. So it's, as I mentioned, I've known people who are readers, and they didn't have astrology or numerology to utilize. They just had an innate gifts that they were able to discern the energies that you were projecting. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, and they gave me some books on astrology. Personally, I don't read astrology books. When it comes to the greatermost entities, my focus is the moon for reasons which I talked about on the last show. When it comes to when it comes to predicting, like there's this big thing going on in Brazil right now. If you listen to our past show, I was telling right now is when duality is going to happen. People are going to be feeling like they need to rise up and doing something, because the closest I've gotten to being able to even skim the surface of being able to predict what's going to happen on this planet is simply by following the moon. That's the only thing I can say when it comes to that. It really has dominion over people's mental state, and the only reason why you can predict how people are going to act under it is because most people are unconscious to what the moon does, so therefore they're being fixed to a very obvious polarity, which is one of duality and division and stress and all that kind of stuff. That thing could very well change in the course of everybody under the moon could change if everyone holistically knew that the moon fixed people into certain kind of mind perspective. Then everyone would then change their mind to hold and meditate on more positive things, more progressive things, and then you end up with a more progressive planet, because that's what the moon does. It fixes the mind. So, yeah, I don't know too much about being able to predict. I know when it comes to astrology, as thinking of Mars and Saturn and all those guys out there, but I know they talk about things going in a retrograde and stuff like that, and I know when certain things go into retrograde, communication amongst certain people, if it's a communication-based planet, tend to become a little stagnant. So that's as far as I've ever seen anybody ever like going when it comes to using astrology to predict something. But I don't like using the word predict because it's like it seems like it's like an obvious thing. But yeah, and then he says the moon. This is gonna be I feel like Angelica, you have some definitely say on this. It says the moon right now is getting ready to go into Aries because you definitely said that on the last show. Would this time period be really beneficial for someone, let's say, whose birthday comes during the Aries period? So basically, how is the moon being in Aries affecting an Aries?
Okay. So you have to think of it as, like, it also depends on where Aries comes into play. Like, is it your sun sign? You know, or is it in your moon sign? You know, what house does it fall under? But if they're just speaking in general of it being its sun sign, then the attributes of, you know, what Aries brings in that sun sign, that's just going to be, you know, even more heightened, you know, but on a more, you know, subconscious level. You know, so those feelings and those emotions and those passions that come with Aries, you know, those things are going to be heightened on the mental level, on the subconscious level, because that's what really the moon is. The moon is about, you know, feelings and emotions. You know, a lot of people forget that. That's why it's like really connected to the subconscious mind. You know, those things that, you know, are unseen, that we feel, you know, that we just know because we know, we just have a feeling about it. You know, that whole sixth sense thing that people talk about. So, you know, like I was saying, it really just depends on, you know, the other things that Aries falls in their chart, but in general, I'm getting the feeling that it's just their sun sign they're wondering. So, you know, all the basic attributes of Aries and the sunshine, you know, that passion, that fieriness, you know, that kind of like quick wanting to, you know, go and rush through things, like let's just get it done now, you know, all that stuff, but, you know, going around, you know, will be amplified for that person. But also, you know, it depends on the person, you know, what they feel, what they go through. You know, this is just, you know, me going off of the information and the knowledge that I've attained from reading my books, because, you know, I'm kind of a nerd. So, you know, that's the other thing, like I said, is like, you know, read certain books, get a feeling, get an understanding, and, you know, take the time to see what happens to you when, you know, the moon is in certain phases in your sign, you know, in your sun sign or in your moon sign. You know, what are the things that you notice that happen differently or that are, you know, occurring during that time? You know, so a lot of it, like I said, you know, like we've all said before, it's a self-journey. So.
D, you got something to add in on that? D.
Yes. I'm sorry. I had you on mute.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You got something to add on that?
I just want to add on what Angelica was mentioning in regards to, you know, well, I always, initially when I first began to look into astrology and numerology, it was really based on looking at the Farmer's Almanac. And I was amazed to see how over thousands of years, even, at least I know for a fact that the almanac here in America was created like 400 years ago. But prior to that, it was, you know, there were people in different parts of the planet who knew that springtime certain crops should be planted and certain crops needed to be harvested. that gave me a big indication of, and the moon had a lot to do with it. So I looked at it from that standpoint, and I started looking at my own makeup and recognized that, myself being a Libra, and I'm always trying to balance things out. And I know if the moon is in Libra, I know that my abilities to be able to make good judgment is enhanced. So, you being a Aries, just logically speaking, Aries is a fiery sign. I mean, it's a fire sign. So it's you should have an enhanced ability to if you want to be aggressive in regards to a relationship, if you want to be going out one evening, you should be able to. You shouldn't hesitate to just go ahead, and if you see a lady that you want to talk to, go and do it. And you should have decent success. But of course, you got to use some logic as well. Is she out of my lane or is she in my lane? But that's the way I see it. Just using common sense as well as recognizing that energies are real and be able to tune into those energies to the best of your ability.
Yeah, and basically too, as you can see, like the moon is in Aries, and since the moon has a lot to do with subconscious, and the subconscious has a lot to do with one's actions, like one's thoughts has a lot to do with one's actions and one's emotions. The moon's in Aries, and I don't see it as a coincidence that, if we use Brazil as an example, whatever unfolded there that led up to causing the people to come out and protest it's not a coincidence that it's happened at this time. Like, the people have a fire under them. They had reason to have a fire under them. And whoever acted to spark this thing that caused this was acting under, obviously, some enhanced perspective, whatever they had built up to do, whatever action caused the big, the outrage out there. I don't find that being a coincidence either, because people are either right now feeling, real good, or feeling real like they're feeling like things aren't right and someone's doing something wrong and there's a target and there's an enemy. There's somebody who is the culprit to why they don't feel some kind of way. And why would this be the case? Because over many moons, they meditated on these kind of things, and they're fixed to that brain frequency, those ways of thought. And then, boom, here comes the action as it culminated to a peak. And then it sparks people into that are in a time where reaction is going to be pretty high. Fire is going to be high. So I would believe that, like D said, when it's in his sign, when certain things are in his sign, it's going to, enhance certain things. What I would do, because what I do is I'm very mindful of myself under the moon, and that's going to be your greatest clock to what you need to do. How you're feeling in your mind. Like, if you're feeling like your focus is external based, you should definitely, and when I mean external, I mean like externally pointing the finger. You need to slow down a little bit and say, okay, I have control. What can I do to directly affect my outcomes? Because I have control. I have the ability through cause and effect, through intention, through manifestation, whatever your way you want to look at it, to affect my outcomes by building up momentum. So that's the way I look at it, because the way it could affect an Aries is it can make you want to act, but you could act out in a negative way. So that's why I'm saying pay attention to what you're feeling, because whenever you're feeling too much of something, it's smart to balance yourself out so you don't do anything that's going to cause you to get yourself into a situation that doesn't suit you. So, yeah. And then he asked, or I don't even know if Organ does rule as a male or a female, but then they asked, do other planets too have waxing and waning phases like the moon does? And does this affect us too like the moon does? Now, I've never heard anything about other planets having waxing and waning phases, but I know they do have orbits and alignments that create different energy combinations that affect us in certain ways. Maybe dear Angelica has heard something about other planets having waxing and waning phases, but I've never heard of that before.
Never have I either.
I haven't heard about it. I mean, it's just one of those things that you think about when you go to the extreme and you understand that these other planets, they also have, moons around them.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, if those moons are going around them, wouldn't they have waxing and waning? How does that affect us? It's like, well, I don't know. I'm not on that planet. It's like, but I do know the planet that I'm on. And that's what we're going, based off of. It's like, I don't know what the effects would be of, like, Jupiter's moon, on the Earth. Because I don't know the effects that it has on Jupiter itself. So how would I know?
Exactly. And
another thing, one other thing, too, we got to recognize the proximity of the moon. The moon is the closest celestial body to the planet Earth. And that's why it has more of an effect as far as we actually can see the waxing and the changes of the moon, the waxing and the waning. So that has a lot, and it affects us more because, we recognize when we're in a full moon, if I'm not mistaken, that's when high tide, as far as it affects the waters of the planet, of the Earth in particular. And also, the waters mean also the waters of a pregnant lady, because the baby's encapsulated in water life. So, and also ladies' menstrual cycle.
The waters of the mind.
Yeah, the waters of the mind. So, but that's only because that's the closest celestial body to planet Earth. So, I think that's one of the major aspects there.
And another thing, when it comes to other planets, I don't know if the planets are going to wax and wane. I've never heard of that, but like Angelica said, these other planets do have moons. We can only assume that their moons affect that planet the way our moon affects us. But I can almost guarantee that the moon is going to have a different mineral make. So it's going to have a different effect depending on that mineral make. The reason why our moon affects us the way it does is because the mineral make and the vibration that it emits. If it was made of something else, it would affect something else, not our minds here, right? But our moon does what it does from its vibrational kind of resonance, and our ancestors seem to know it affected the mind. Why and how they figured that out, I don't know. I would like to know that, though, because that would be something I would like to know.
I think you just mentioned it, boy, in regards to the waters of the mind, waters of the brain.
Yeah.
And how?
Well, it was like how did they know though that the moon had elements that would directly affect our minds? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily. Well, if you look at it from the elemental standpoint, yeah, I can see that, but I think it's just the actual experience. Recognize, okay, when there's a full moon, we recognize that there's going to be intensity as far as people, if they don't have
like
control of their thoughts. Exactly.
Because I kind of was paying attention, and then I found book source. and shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, oh, okay.
To validate.
So, yeah. So, but see, that goes back to us as individuals having faith in our own intuition and what we have figured out. Because a lot of times we look for validation from some source that's been lifted up in the realm as an accurate point of reference that now, okay, we can validate our own thoughts if that person agrees with us, right? So, that goes back, and then we'll say things like we have intuition and connection to our ancestors and then completely ignore everything that we come up with, which is really interesting too. But that's a digress into another discussion. So we got some Organ Ducks rules. Appreciate you always interacting with us and listening in. That's what's up. And
boy.
Now I'm going to take – what's up?
I'm not mentioning. I remember it. Is there any indication? You mentioned whether it's a male or female, but I remember the one question must have been a couple of weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he was asking about ladies and relationships. It sounded like he was a guy.
Oh yeah.
But it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that did allude. That did,
yeah.
So we have someone in the call log that has their hand up, and that's area code 929, last 4 digits 0634. What do you have to add or ask tonight? How you doing?
Hello?
How you doing?
Hey, how's it going? I'm pretty good.
So what's going on? We saw your hand up. How you doing tonight?
Oh yeah, I've got some shit stuck in my ass here. I took a pretty big shit the other day. Do you guys know how to deal with dingleberries?
Yes, indeed.
You should probably do an enema or something. It's probably
you jerk me off.
You probably got some shit stuck in your brain
right
too. Somebody just heckled us on here. Like, what do they call that when people do that kind of stuff? Like a heckler. Yeah, you probably need to do an enema or something because it seems like your brain got some shit in it too for you to do some shit like that. But anyways,
enema in his brain, enema in his bottom.
Yeah, you need to stick an enema bag in your ear and get that sludge out your ear. He tried to come up here and ruin somebody's night. That's funny. Funny. Hey, when that's interesting because you know what they say, right? Like if nobody's trying to fuck with you, then you're not doing anything right. So thank you, Mr. Heckler, who clearly you probably I don't know, man. I'm not gonna sit up here and insult you though. But we appreciate your call, man.
Yes, indeed we do. Yes. Moving right along.
Yeah, let's move on. He was the only person with his hand up, Mr. He has some shit stuck in his ass. At least you're being honest, though. We appreciate that honesty. Take the Night is about sharing and being honest and stuff like that. So you definitely came in with the right frequency. Yeah, you came in with the right frequency, bro.
Yes, indeed. Yes, he would have.
I gotta sit here a little longer, D. You probably got something else. You probably need to stop sticking foreign objects up there too. The way you sounded like you probably like to do some extracurricular activities, and the fact that you chose to come on here with that, you probably hit a nerve somewhere in your brain that that affected the brain some kind of way that made your brain think that was a good idea, because that was weird.
Good point. But moving right along.
Let's move on.
No energy.
Oh man.
But
that reminded me of the one time when we had the other guests on our second show. It's been a minute since we did that. We definitely in a new cycle because it seems like we got a heckler at the beginning of our cycle, kinda, and then this must be a new cycle. So that's what's up. Me and Angelica and I were talking about cycles earlier today, how, like, people from your past have been popping up, or at least for, I think Bonnie has her hand up. I think Bonnie's 415.
I think so.
Yeah, 415-6385. Is that you, Bonnie?
Hey.
Hello?
All right, here's the big question. Are you a fan of anal sex?
Oh, my God.
Oh. That's another one, huh? Yeah. But changing gears, though, you know, as you mentioned about about people from your past popping up, and I experienced that as well when I went home, and how actually my neighbor, who I hadn't seen in about since we were must have been about 15 years ago, and he went through a lot of different issues, but fortunately, I didn't see him when he was going through those issues. But he's better now, and he's on the up. And it was so good to see him. But you know, but we discussed how he had gone through these issues, and he recognized it was anger that caused him to abuse various substances, from alcohol to drugs, and it was so refreshing to hear him be able to blame, you know, because I'd heard he was going through some issues, but I kind of equate that to the two gentlemen who called it. So they have some major issues that they haven't resolved. So it's
like attention kind of thing going on there.
Yeah. Hopefully they're able to do so, you know, because this show is about take the night, trying to make a better you. And it's not about trying to take anybody in a difficult or how you said, taking someone
more than
where they
likely.
don't want to go.
Since we brought that up, it's probably more than likely somebody from somebody who one of us know of.
You know, so?
like somebody. Yeah, of course, because the fact, you know, Angelica was talking, we kind of was on a frequency the other day talking about how certain entities of the past, of a vibration that you've moved on from, are popping up right now.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that.
And that's probably somebody who from the past that clearly hasn't transcended or evolved in any kind of way mentally, trying to come in to, you know, got consciousness, got wind of the show, and tried to come in and just try to stir up shit like, you know, zombies do. But you know, hey, nice to see you again, buddy. Whatever.
Yes,
but but yeah, and then they call it. I bet that's them again. I'm not even going to pick up anymore. So you might as well just stop calling. You done just made it to where I'm not even going to pick up anymore because it's like it's obvious.
That's good.
Just
don't even go
obvious.
there. Man.
Yeah.
But one thing I wanted to touch on in regards to the
and then they hung up right after I said that.
The dairy, and how, you know, it's you know, of course, most people when they were in elementary school, you know, was taught that milk was good for us, but in reality, it's not good for us. In particular, I could perhaps see people in a environment or a weather environment where there is not much sunlight, you know, to grow vegetables and fruit. You know, that might be a sustainable food. You know, they can create cheese and things of that nature. But all mammals have a breast that, you know, that the female can feed, you know, their child with. And after that child gets a certain age, they don't need that milk anymore. The same thing with a calf and a mother cow.
Exactly.
After the calf gets a certain age, you don't need that milk anymore. He gets this the calcium from the vegetation that he eats. And
Not to leave out too that milk is for a cow that weighs like hundreds and hundreds of pounds. So it really doesn't, it doesn't make any sense that it would be good for you because your bone mass isn't trying to develop to that point. It's not like you feel me? And the one thing that grosses me out about it is that how there's like a certain count of pus allowed in each gallon of milk. Pus cells. That shit grosses me out. That the FDA approves like a certain amount of pus cells that can be in even blood, because when you're milking cows, the nipples get real worn down and begin to bleed and scab, and pus and blood, that stuff is going to get into the milk, and they can only get so much of it out. You can look that up. That's just a personal choice, because I don't, I wouldn't even want to consume my own pus, so I'm definitely not going to consume the pus of another animal. But
hey, but if you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah.
But it's best to try to know as much as you can. That's the bottom line.
But on another note, though, just to, because everything happens for a reason, and even the person that keeps calling in trolling, it goes back to, you weren't on the show with us on our past show, but Angelica remember this. Now I was saying, right now, this is when people are trying to get on your nerves, or some people will intentionally be feeling about themselves and their ego to where they can put themselves up to doing something stupid, like whatever just happened in Texas, right? And to do things like what this is going on, to try to throw you out of what you're doing because people are more externally based. Like if you're doing something that's going to progress yourself, you wouldn't be heckling somebody else. Only somebody that's not doing anything does that kind of shit, right?
Right.
That's you see what I'm saying? So people are, or it's just validating everything that, I was feeling up to tonight from a minute ago, and part of what the past show was about too. And though I don't know, if they think that something like that is going to discourage people, but again, that's the energy of it, to try to disrupt, discourage, to cause some kind of division, some kind of divisiveness, and it's right on time. And you can almost guarantee that kind of energy functioning that way, the ego's bumpy and you're trying to impress somebody, a friend or something like that. It seems all cool to laugh and joke about it, but you can almost guarantee that entity in their own personal life, when they're alone and the lights, no one's around, that there's, like Dee was saying, some deep-seated issues that need to be resolved. But it seems like in our life, we tend to, or a certain kind of energy will resort to externally poking to run away from their own problems.
True.
And go ahead.
I was about to ask you, did he mention gooseberries?
Yeah,
he mentioned gooseberries or something. But I just turned to, I'm looking at one of my books in the library, and gooseberry, rich in potassium and vitamin C, regulates blood pressure, strengthens connective tissue, and tones the heart. So he needs to eat a lot of gooseberries.
Yeah, 412-9703, and I guess if we get help
don't
from
pull it
our
up.
life, hey,
don't even do it.
Well, there's a 513 that. See, the thing is I'm not gonna let they're kind of like, you remember the KKK, right? They used to, like, burn crosses on people's lawn to try to stop you from coming outside. Like, whoever is functioning on that same energy of trying to stop you from doing what you would be doing, normally. So instead of me stopping what we would normally be doing, I'm going to just mute them if they, let them do it and just mute them, because it's not doing anything to me. It's not affecting me, so it's like whatever, I can mute them. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But
all right.
412-9703, let's see who, if this is another heckler. You another heckler?
It's just me.
Hello?
It's Bonnie. Hello?
Oh, what's going on, Bonnie?
Hey.
Yeah, we can hear you.
I'm sorry. I had to come back downstairs because that made me laugh. I almost woke Jameson up. I just wanted to point out about whoever that was apparently has nothing better to do and very little positive going on, because weren't you guys talking about digestion like an hour ago? Like, I've been on the line the entire time, and I'm just wondering, like, he really hung out for an hour, probably flipping through Netflix or something, waiting to say that. Like, that doesn't take a whole lot of imagination or ingenuity, for sure.
Not a whole lot of brain cells, right? Brain cells.
It just reminds me of like being 13 years old. I remember being terrified because we made a prank call and I thought I was going to get arrested. It was like dumb. It was really dumb, and it made me think back to, wow, I was 13 when I did that, and wow.
Hey.
It's sad and funny all at the same time.
Some people never grow up.
Yeah, I just, like, what are you doing with your life, dude? Like, wow.
It's like a cloaked sign of gratitude. Like, people only try to disrupt things that they feel like are worth
threatened by.
You
that,
see?
and they feel threatened.
Yeah, or it made them feel they heard something that highlighted something that was deeply rooted in themselves, and to hide how that made them feel, they decided to act out in some kind of way, that would cause some kind of humor or distract them from dealing with that issue. I mean, you already know what's going on there.
Yeah, it's what's funny to me is they worked really hard at it too, because if they called from two different numbers, from two totally different area codes, they're using some kind of phone number generator app to disguise their phone number. So that's a lot of effort to sound like an a-hole on the air. But there's a lot easier ways to be an asshole. There just is. But anyways. I wanted to go back. I don't know if Victoria's still online or anything. I wanted to say hi to Victoria. We did have a conversation probably about a week ago, which was really cool. I think I might have mentioned that to you, Boyd, that we finally connected. And just talking, I like how I always enjoy listening to you guys and the various takes on the subjects that you guys are talking about, and how Dee was saying, sorry, I'm horrible with names, was talking about balanced diet, and Victoria, I don't know exactly what she was talking to me about plant-based diet, which is, I'm assuming, what she follows pretty closely, and then how Boyd was saying about changing your diet based on like your activity level and going through football training. Like, I played soccer my entire life up through high school, and then some in college, and then I coached soccer. And I'm wondering if you guys were talking about stress and how it affects the body, and I am a prime example of how stress and poor nutrition can completely destroy your life in what seems like seconds, but actually was a buildup of years and years of stress and poor nutrition. I mean, it was a combination of the two things. And those two things kind of can play off of each other too. Like, I think, Ford, you were talking about like comfort foods. And then some people I used to bounce back and forth between, like I didn't have necessarily that diagnosable eating disorder, but like eating too much because you hadn't eaten, and then stress was causing you to not eat, and then when the stress level would drop a little bit, you'd eat a whole bunch. Like I was all over the place for a while. And I think it kind of boils down to, I know Victoria was saying something about it's not necessarily genetic as much as it is, like the disease itself is not necessarily genetic as much as is like the habits are genetic. So like what your parents pass down to you so far as like what they're eating and what they're doing, you inherit the behaviors rather than the genes. But I'm wondering, and this is, don't want this to sound morbid, but I'm wondering, like, what everybody's take kind of is on, like, kids that end up with these diseases. Do you think that is that genetic? Or, like, I know a little girl who has juvenile arthritis, and I have rheumatoid arthritis, and they are the same exact thing, except that the one develops in early childhood as young as, I think she was like 18 months when she was diagnosed.
You know what? You know what they never talk about? They never talk about, just how we kind of avoid talking about the sins of our fathers and how it affects us. And that's just a statement. I'm not necessarily talking about our fathers, but just like our ancestors and how what they did affects us directly. This notion is a lot, I feel like, a lot more direct when it comes to when we're birthing our kids, and we rarely hear much about, how what one with the parent, but the parent's lifestyle prior to having kids, what they did. Because think about it, you're passing on fractions of your genes, right? You're splicing yourself. So if your genes aren't the greatest versions of copies of themselves, time you go to pass those on, you're passing on deficiency, genes that aren't functioning at a rate in which is, the greatest. So
like the leftovers, basically.
Exactly. So you're having a kid, both parents have had bad habits and lifestyles when it comes to upkeeping the genes that they're about to pass on. We're inheritance, right? This whole notion of inheriting, right? Inheriting wealth, inheriting a company, inheriting a house, inheriting things. You're inheriting genes. So are these genes in good shape? Is that house in good standing? Is it falling apart? Is it better to sell it, or can you live in it? Or you know what I mean? Like you're passing on genes after, you partied like a rock star for however many years, not really thinking about how that's affected those genes that you're about to pass on, just like, So it has to be a combination of the parents. Because a lot of these things that we see today, if you go back to the 60s and the 50s, and,
I know.
They didn't exist.
And I just had the same conversation. I've had that conversation with people a lot recently, actually, and it kind of goes back to what he was saying about like his grandmother and how I'm sorry, I might totally blanked on your name. I apologize. I'm really tired. D. Okay, I was calling. Okay, for some reason saying it out loud didn't sound right. Okay. Anyway, about his grandmother and how like the food options back then weren't anything like what they are now, and you didn't have convenience food was like a banana because you could peel it quickly, or an apple because you could eat it right away. Well, it didn't have to be prepared. It wasn't some prepackaged garbage that was 90% chemicals and maybe 2% actual food and some other stuff sprinkled in there to hold it all together and make it look pretty. And I really feel like back to, because I go further, like way back when I start thinking about this stuff, and I'm not an expert. I just have been really exploring it on my own lately because of my own illnesses and trying to pick apart what's going to work for me and testing this and testing that and eliminating one thing and, trying all these different food options. And, like, beyond the fact that 100 years ago all these chemicals and hormones and things weren't being pumped into our food so they could be shipped across, the country or whatnot, you'll go back like 1,000 years and people were eating, like, strictly off the land and, killing animals to have them for dinner. And, hunters got, like, way, way, way back. Like,
right.
I find it interesting that it's like we're almost going to be hitting the end of another cycle here soon because, like, so people's life expectancy back in the late 1800s, early 1900s was like 37 or something, really low. Like, it was low. And I'm probably getting the year not exactly correct, but
I think that depends on where they were living too.
True, that's very true. So I guess for like argument's sake, we'll talk about just North America because that's probably where this information was calculated on. Because the conversation that I was listening to about it, but so like their life expectancy was relatively. I mean, I would be at the end of my life right now. You know what I mean? So.
Mm-hmm.
But that's because there were diseases and there weren't vaccinations and there weren't all these other things. So it's like medical science stepped in and was like, hey, we can fix all this stuff and help you live longer. Okay, cool, awesome. But then it like morphed into something completely different. And instead of like helping people, it was helping people and then like destroying them at the same time. So then we get this new generation who's living longer, but they're getting sick when they're in their late 30s, or they're getting sick in their 50s, or they've got diabetes, or heart disease, or cancer, or whatever the hell it is. And so more people are living like into their 70s, but a lot of them are coming down with these like stress-based, food-based, whatever you want to, illnesses, in their late 30s, 40s, 50s, but then medicine steps back in and goes, oh, well, we can prolong your life again, and we're going to do this, and they keep intervening. And now we've got a large group, like you guys are talking about, of people who, some of them are doing it because it's a trend, and some of them are doing it just because they've woken up and they want to eat better and they want to, live healthier, or maybe they were born into a family who was doing that from the beginning, which is awesome. And I'm wondering if there's going to be like this cycle again where people are maybe not living quite as long, like maybe into their 70s or 80s or even the 60s, but that whole life of theirs is like illness free. They're not getting cancer. They're not, you know what I mean? Because they're not exposing themselves to all this junk that's being pumped into like mainstream food. Does that make sense? Because it's going to kind of like shift back to like, okay, cool, so we're not living to 90, but we're also not living on a ventilator or living on, whatever kind of medication. And I'm not against any of that stuff. Like, I'm on my own medication right now while I'm trying to figure stuff out. Like, I take prednisone. It's a steroid. It's not the best thing for your body, but it helps me function day to day with 4 kids. So until I find something holistically to kind of replace that, that's where I'm at right now. But I really wonder if there's going to be some kind of shift again in another 50 years or so, if companies are going to be forced to clean up the foods, and if, being forced to stop using pesticides, or if people are going to, quit doing the extra vaccinations or whatever it is. And I'm not anti-vax or anything like that. And it's interesting that the history of it to me is, even though I don't know everything about it, it just kind of piques my interest.
Yeah, if I could say something, I think that it really boils down to, now, one thing we've got to recognize. Majority of the world doesn't have the pharmaceutical industry that the Western world uses, and the Western world
very true.
Doesn't, it's most of those people, like for instance, where I live here in Texas, there's a lot of people from India, people from Pakistan, people from Japan, Korea, and these people, when I go into the grocery stores, I buy certain products. Most of them have actual herbal products that they have been using for years in their family.
Right. That's what I'm finding out.
Yeah. and certain food sources like turmeric, for instance. Turmeric is a staple in India, right?
Yeah.
So that's but here in America and I would say in Europe perhaps, it's more the medical industry is more or less about making money.
That's what I was gonna say. It's like we're gonna make you sick. We're gonna charge you money to eat this crap that's gonna make you sick, and then we're gonna charge you money to fix the problems that we made in the first place. And I hate to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but that's exactly what it seems like is going on.
That's what it seems like. But then the other side is that, in China, their philosophy, doctors in China, their philosophy is they don't want to see you when you're sick. They want to see you to keep you healthy.
Right. And see, that makes sense to me. I have a doctor like that.
Yeah, so they deal with acupuncture. They deal with herbs to keep your yin and your yang balanced. You know what I mean? So I think the more you, if you choose, like you already doing your work now, the more you seek more information about what your cause. Most issues when I'm not a doctor by any means, but I know my own body. And I know that certain nutrients that's missing in my body would benefit my body if I consume them. So if it's calcium based, I find an herb that has calcium in it. If it's potassium, I find a substance that's going to bring more calcium into my body. If it's iron, iodine, I consume that. But of course, you're doing the right thing by doing your own research, at least comparatively, and try to lean more toward more of a holistic approach than what we have here, and that's the way I see it.
Yeah, the one big thing that I've been trying to do is incorporate more organic foods into my diet. There's 6 of us, so food costs are up, but I seek out, we have Aldi's here. I don't know if you guys have that, but they sell organic foods for way cheaper than the conventional grocery stores, or local grocery stores, Walmart, whatever you want to, call them. And because one thing, I'm allergic to almost every antibiotic on the planet, anaphylaxis allergic. And it dawned on me one day, not that this is a genius thought, but that the hormones in the meat that we eat, I don't eat a ton of meat, but I do eat it a few times a week, is pumped full of antibiotics. So how the hell is that good for me to be eating, like Boyd was saying, cow dosages of antibiotics when I already know that antibiotics basically would kill me if given the chance? You know what I mean? So that's something I'm trying to get away from is any kind of meat that's not organic. And the thing that sucks is you never really 100% are ever going to know.
Unless you raise your own.
Depending on where you got to read the labels. It'll tell you.
Well, I read labels. I do, but I still don't trust them 100%. To be honest with you, I'm like,
I don't blame you.
Who did they pay to put this organic label on here? You know what I mean?
Right.
That sounds really cynical, but it's entirely possible. Hey, we're going to sell this shit for more. We're going to charge you to put the extra label on it, and you're going to charge more for this. I mean, again, that's conspiracy stuff.
Well, the reason why in terms of business that's not a good idea is because there's something called false advertising. And if you understand false advertising, you know that you're liable to be sued. You're liable to be sued for false advertising. So if you were to take that meat that says that it was fed no antibiotics used or any of that and did a test on it and it turned out to be full of antibiotics, that's a lawsuit. In this country, it's a big lawsuit.
It is. I mean, that's a whole nother conversation about, cover-ups and everything for another day. But, I really feel like it's more about trial and error. I think, actually, a couple of you were talking about the trial and error of testing different foods in your own body and how your body. Me, I know for a fact that when I'm feeling tired and sluggish, I need to eat protein or salt or both stat. I don't know why it is that way, but and it's probably not the best choice, but sometimes I'll eat a couple spoonfuls of peanut butter. If I'm so drained that I can barely move, it'll come out of nowhere. Like, the fatigue will come out of nowhere. At least it seems like. I haven't figured out what the source is yet. And peanut butter, for whatever reason, there's organic peanut butter on the cover, and I'll eat a couple of tablespoons of that until I can prepare something else. And by the time I'm done, getting something else ready, I'm already starting to feel better. I think it's really bizarre. I have really low blood pressure. Salt is something that I've always had to keep in my diet, and not the crappy table stuff, like the real, like you were talking about, we have Himalayan pink salt, like a grinder. So real salt, and not just sodium. And I can almost feel, like, within a few minutes, whatever that is raises my energy level. Like, I go from not being able to think straight and foggy-headed to almost fully functional. So protein, and I know you can get protein, like I eat chickpeas and I eat, other things, but the sheer amount of this stuff that you have to eat to get the same protein content as a piece of meat or like tuna fish or something, it's a lot. Like, I mean, they're good sources for supplementing, but for me at least, I wouldn't be able to eat like spinach and chickpeas and be okay as far as protein's concerned. You know what I mean? So I'm really trying to weed through and just figure out on my own where the balance
eat whatever works for you, but just make sure you consume a lot of water. Like, how much water do you drink?
I drink a decent amount. It's not as good as it could be, and there's some days I do better than others. One thing I recently started doing is drinking lemon water because it detoxifies, and I notice it within hours or overnight. A friend of mine who actually lives in India, I'm going to say reintroduced me to the herbs and spices and things and using them in my foods. Because I'd heard of it before, but it was kind of like hearsay or in a magazine or, something not necessarily as reputable as somebody who she claims that she's cured her RA and she's done it through diet and she's got nothing to sell me and no reason to be pushing these things. There's nothing for her to gain except for we're friends now. You know what I mean? And she suggested warm lemon water in the morning and at night, and I'm almost addicted to it now. Like, I want to drink this stuff all day long. So my water intake has drastically increased in the past, I don't say month, whereas before I had fallen back into, okay, it's morning, I'm groggy, I'm going to make coffee. And yes, I still drink coffee, but I don't drink nearly as much coffee as I was before. I mean, I would drink coffee all day long just because that's what I was doing. And I don't do that anymore.
Do you have a pen and paper near you?
I can get one.
Write down Andrew Norton Weber and just YouTube him and check him out. And he talks a lot about water. And then, and I feel like you'll find that very interesting if you look up Andrew Norton Weber. And that could be something you add to, whether if you connect with what dude's saying, then you can, add, give or take whatever he's saying. But it really focuses on water intake and how just add in some of that, add in more than normal. Because a lot of times when we say we drink a lot of water, it's just more than what we normally drink, right? But
I know that you're supposed to drink, I think it's half of your body weight in ounces of water is what I've heard, and then add a little bit. Depending on your that should be your daily consumption. I don't know what this guy says because I obviously haven't watched him yet, but fitness people, and I've heard that, but I mean, it used to be 64 ounces was the general average, as they told people to aim for, and now it goes based, from what I've been hearing recently, it goes based on your body weight, to drink at least half of your body weight in ounces of water a day. So if you're average of 150 pounds or whatever, you're drinking what is that, 75 ounces of water every day, and I think that makes, it makes a lot of sense because water, it's one of the purest things you could probably put into your body, and it takes stuff out with it. So it's like a natural cleansing agent without being caustic, And I think that, I noticed for me anyhow, it was really strange. Like the first time I drank the lemon water before bed, I woke up and my eyes were real crusty. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like I thought I had pink eye or something was going on, and I was fine. And then I realized that when I woke up, though, that morning, it didn't take me as long to get moving as it normally does. Like an average for me in the morning when I get up, now I'm moving around, but to get moving, like, comfortably, and I don't know if Dina, like, I have RA and I have fibro and I have some other stuff going on that they've diagnosed that I'm basically trying to get rid of. And a normal time frame in the morning is like an hour to an hour and a half, sometimes longer, depending on how good or bad I slept. But drinking that before bed, that next morning, even with the crust in my eyes, I'm like, well, I can't be sick because I have more energy than I normally do. And I'm like, wait, so it only took me 45 minutes to get moving versus an hour or whatever it was. But it made like an almost immediate noticeable difference. And then I realized over the course of like the next, week or so, trying to build this as a habit, because of course building new habits sometimes takes time, and I would forget every once in a while or whatever. But it's like my body is like pushing toxins out, like even through my tear ducts. Like that's crazy to think about that, but that's what's happening. Like there's no other explanation for it, because the nights that I don't drink it, and I know it's acidic, and you don't want to drink tons and tons of lemon, but that's what it's doing. Like wherever it can push these toxins out, and that's probably one of the paths of least resistance when you're sleeping. But that's like what it's doing, and it's crazy that it works so fast. I mean, I think people turn to medication a lot of times because they're looking for, and Victoria and I talked about this a little bit, a quick solution for a not quick problem, like a problem that has developed over years, like you guys were talking about diet and then building up over years and years and eventually causing issues. People want a quick fix because they want to get on with their lives, and what they're not realizing, and I fully admit that I fell into this trap myself, is that once you get into the medicine trap and they're trying to use it as a long-term fix for your problem, you're not going to get rid of the problem. You're just going to keep masking the problem. And there are definitely places for medication. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, I'm still taking some myself while I figure out everything else. But I think, unfortunately, the easy fix is not always the best solution. Like, and I think that's the case a lot of times.
Yeah, you're right.
Wake up and you take the pills and you feel better. Yeah.
Everything takes time. It's a process, and all you can do is make sure you take care of yourself and don't do anything. Go cold turkey on anything, and just make sure you monitor yourself. And so and ask the doctor. Keep in touch with your doctor and see what he says, because nowadays they kind of deal with natural kind of things, and they'll let you know how that's going to affect you. But I'm not really sure.
You're right. You're right. Because my rheumatologist, even, I told her, I just saw my rheumatologist and maybe a month or so ago, and told her, I was like, hey, so I've been doing yoga, because I only see her like twice a year, unless I absolutely have to. And I've been doing yoga, and I've been doing this, I've been doing this, that, and I got off all of these meds. I'm not taking that stuff anymore, and I'm taking these vitamins, more of this vitamin, whatever it was, catching her up on all the things that I've been trying, and doing some, mindset work, and, a lot of mindset work, to be honest with you, and just connecting, making new connections and dropping old connections, toxic people and stuff. And she was like, that's fantastic. Like, she's basically, if you don't need to come see me, then I've done my job. And a lot of doctors aren't like that. if once you feel ready, try cutting your prednisone in half. See how you feel. If your pain doesn't increase, then try stopping it. But she is one of the better doctors that I've had. That's not just handing you a tablet full of scripts. Like, why don't we try this first? Okay, well, that didn't work, then we'll try, and like you said, a lot of doctors now are more open to you healing yourself, and finding ways to allow your body to heal itself, basically, because that's what's really happening.
One of the things they say now, too, a lot is how much water are you drinking, up your water intake, because people really don't understand how much water they don't drink and how much water the body needs. You get dehydrated all the time. You're in the sun, you're losing water with sweat, you're moving around. The water, we need to drink a lot of water. I keep a gallon of water with me, and I try to finish my gallon a day. And if I can get into another gallon, then I'm doing real well that day. It's not, I don't always get into the second gallon, but I make sure if I don't finish my gallon in the morning, I finish the rest of the gallon that I had the day before, and then I open another one right away in the morning, and I carry that one around with me throughout the day, and it just continues. And then, and if I drink something other than water, with me, it's always like some juice or something like that. And that's the habit I've got myself into. And I know that's not going to work for everybody, but that's the thing that works for me, and to keep the toxins out of my body and stuff like that. But I don't know how much longer we're going to have on here, Bonnie, because we get kicked off sometimes, and it's like 11:55. I know we started a little later. I'm the only one left on the phone with you.
Oh, really?
Everybody they dropped. Everyone dropped off. I don't know what happened, but it's always good talking to you, Bonnie.
Yeah, no, I called in. I called in earlier, and then did some stuff with the kids, and then I heard the stuff with the hecklers. I was like, oh my gosh, because I was actually I was laying down to get ready to go to sleep because it's been a really long day. But I was like, because I was gonna save my other comments for another time, but then I heard that and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, I didn't even think you were gonna pick up my. I didn't even know you could hit one once you hit past 11 o'clock, because you guys were talking before about how it wouldn't work. Unless do you guys have 2 hours in? Is that how that works?
As long as you're on the phone when we go into the after hours, you can press 1 to interact. It's just once we go into the after hour, you're not going to be able to call in at all, and the show cuts off for anyone listening on the stream. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I always call in because it's easier for me. It uses less phone battery rather than trying to live stream and get interrupted.
Yeah.
But
it's good having you, Bonnie, and I hope you continue to do whatever it is you need to do to feel better and stuff like that.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Well.
Yeah, yes, they are. Knock on wood. Knock on lots of wood here. They're doing pretty good. We're getting ready for another big storm. Some more snow, but
we got one going on over here too. We got a rainstorm coming through over here.
Yeah. My husband was just down in North Carolina with a friend of his who does insurance stuff, and people are in-ground pools are completely covered and then buried in sand because of the last storm that they just had. This weather's just been insane. With all the precipitation the past few months, it's been crazy. So. But all right, I'll let you go, and let me know about the other thing you were telling me about, the round table, right?
Oh yeah,
Is that what you were telling me about the last time? Yeah.
Yeah, the round table, definitely the round table. When we have whoever wants to come on just is on for the whole show. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Let me know
I actually speak to Dee and Angelica, leading up to the show, and we decide what it is we're going to talk about or what the show is going to be. I try, sometimes somebody has something that's been on their mind and, they want to talk about something. Sometimes they really don't have anything on their mind, and it doesn't really matter what it is, but it always varies because I just want to keep it that way. So there's never one of those things where, when you're working with other people, you want to make sure everybody has a voice and like their motion is heard and is acted on the platform,
right.
So you can keep everything going well. So
right.
I don't know when it's gonna be, but Dee suggested health today, and then when I hit up Angelica, she was like, health is cool. So I was like, that's fine, because. Yeah, sometimes I'll come up and I'll be like, I want to do a show on this, but most of the time I try to just ask both of them what they want to do, but we'll let you know definitely when we're going to do it. It should be coming out real soon. I know that much. So
yeah, I just want to make sure that I I'm trying to get these interviews together for my podcast, and that's up in the air right now because the platform I'm using isn't working for me, and they can't figure out why, but. I just want to make sure I block off the time so that I don't miss whenever you guys schedule it.
Yeah, we'll let you know ahead of time. That way you can, join the party.
Oh, excuse
all
me.
right, you have a good night, all right?
All right, you too. Thanks.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So, yeah, then that's tonight's show. Thank you for listening to Take the Night, everybody who's listening in. Nutrition is life, so keep yourself in the space you want to be in. Don't let anybody push you off your path. As you can see, the hecklers are alive and well and trying to distract you and get you off of your zone and push you into another space and discourage you. But you got to keep it moving. I'm glad that happened because we kept it moving. So it showed that we keep it moving. So, yeah. And, again, if you would like to contact the show's email is takethenightradio@gmail.com. Again, that's takethenightradio@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter at takethenight99. And you can also contact the show on YouTube, which is, if you search pages, it's Take the Night. So you can follow us there if you would like. And you can also find the Facebook page at Take the Night Radio. And thank you for listening to Take the Night. We always appreciate you. We'll see you on Friday. Have a good night.
I'll take the night. I'll take the night. I'll take the night. I'll take the night. I'll take the night. I'll take the night. I'll take the night. I'll take the night. 'Cause you have a heart that's divine. Loving you all, girl, you're mine. Eternity's ours, yeah, you're mine. We'll live a life, I'll take the night.